representative from Michigan, Ms. McClain, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here today. I want to talk about the independent contractor rule. What is the goal of that rule or that piece of legislation?
So, thank you for that question.
I'm sorry?
I said thank you for the question. The goal of the rule is, under the Fair Labor Standards Act, employees are entitled to a host of protections, minimum wage, overtime, and others. The definition of who is an employee is important because independent contractors don't have those protections and employees do. So what we were doing with the rule—
But isn't that the choice of the employee?
Well—
So I'm still going back to, it, very simply put, what is the goal of the independent contractor rule?
The goal of the rule was to restore decades worth of interpretation about who is an independent contractor and who is an employee.
And you think you're best suited to make that definition?
Well, let me say, Congresswoman, I didn't make up the test. When I say it comes from decades
then
of
I'm
case
still
law,
confused on what the goal of the rule is.
it was to—
Where's the problem? Seems to me like we're trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist.
Well, Congresswoman, misclassification is a real problem. Misclassification refers to—
What is the problem? What is the problem?
called—
Because people have a choice.
Oh, well,
Am I not mistaken?
I mean, here's an example.
No,
It's
I'm
a
not looking for an
problem—
example. I'm looking for an answer.
It's a problem if you are hired to do a job in which you should have all the protections of employee status.
Then go and don't be an independent contractor. Choose an employer. You can either be a 1099 or you can be a W-2. That's your choice, right? If I don't want to be an independent contractor, is there a law out there that says I can only be an independent contractor? The answer to that, because I know you're going to give a 20-minute dissertation, is no.
No,
so
I'll
let
be
me ask
brief,
you this. Have
Congresswoman.
you
I'll
ever
just
been
say
a
that—
business owner?
I'll be brief about this. I will just say that for the many workers who have come to us and said, I wasn't paid what I should have been paid, and I was called an independent contractor—
But the confusion— stop, you're mixing apples and oranges. So I go and I'm an independent contractor. I know I'm an independent contractor. And then what's the problem? I mean, you know what you're doing. You're either an independent contractor or you're not. So what my biggest concern is, you haven't even been able to clearly articulate what the goal of that rule is. I mean, we talk in circles. Do you believe in capitalism? Yes, wonderful. Have you ever owned a business?
I've said this before, and I'm sure I'm going to get cut off saying it now, but
Good.
I am the
That
daughter
would be a yes or a
of
no.
small business owners.
So that's
who
great.
had small
I'm a
businesses
daughter
when
too.
I was growing up. So
okay,
my
this
parents
should
had
be
a
really easy
laundromat.
for you. Let's try this again. Let's try this again. Listen carefully. If you need to write a note down, that's fine. Have you— it is kind of comical when you're supposed to be the acting secretary and you can't answer a question. So I'm with you on the comedy. Unfortunately, it's not that comical because it's real life. So let's try it again. Have you— not the daughter, not the mother, not the sister, not the aunt— have you ever owned a business?
Congresswoman, you asked me why the
Have
rule is
you—
important.
okay, let's try this again. So you're making a ton of money. You're making legislation for business owners. You're supposed to be in charge as the acting person, yet you can't answer a simple question. Amazing to me. Maybe we should just pay you more money and that would help you answer the question. I'm going to go back to the question again. Have you ever owned a business? Not a trick question.
Congresswoman, there are working people in this country
Yes.
who do not
I mean,
choose
this
to be
is the very
independent
reason why you
contractors,
can't get confirmed,
but are called
is
independent
because you can't
contractors.
answer a question, right? I'll even accept an I don't know. Have you ever owned a business? And yes, I'm Congresswoman. So have you ever owned a business?
Working people in this country are entitled to basic protections under the federal law. It is our job.
So
at the
is
Department
that
of Labor,
yes, you have owned a business, or no, that's not. I mean, you are brilliant at answering a question that I didn't ask. And this is the very reason why you can't get confirmed in the Senate, because nobody trusts you, because you can't answer a simple question. If you're supposed to be in charge, I would think it's not too much to ask to be able to answer a question. And with that, my disappointment continues to grow, and your smugness continues to be very unacceptable. But you continue being acting secretary, making policies of which you know nothing about. And with that, I yield back.
The representative from California, Mr. DeSaulnier, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Secretary, Julie, I'm very, very proud of you as a friend and a colleague for many years, and as a former business owner who's made lots of payrolls. As much as I admire people who own businesses, it's not discovering the cure to cancer. So in that regard, I did want to talk to you specifically about the work you're doing that helps small businesses. When we enforce labor laws, when we make sure our workforce is protected, and again, as somebody who's been in the restaurant business, and my success was directly related to my employees, and making sure that I respected them and they respected me as an owner and a manager. A lot of what we're doing here is making sure that the underground economy and people who don't respect their employees, who don't pay them, who don't go by the law. We found out in California, actually, former Congresswoman Mimi Walters and I did an underground economy. I think you might have been there then, and just looked at how hard it was for business owners who complied with labor laws, amongst others, to compete with the underground economy, which at that time was about 25%. So we aggressively, in a bipartisan way, went about that. So a lot of the work you've done is actually not just in protecting the employees, but protecting high road employers, the Costcos of the world, as opposed to the Walmarts of the world, I would say. So in that regard, a perfect example is something we worked on together, our staff and your staff, on the multi-employer pension. We, by doing what we did, no taxpayer money was expended. We saved retirement for 800,000 American workers. Let's see, 40,000 in Michigan, 40,000 in Ohio, 22,000 in Wisconsin. That was a real accomplishment. We really struggled with how we were going to save central states and make that hold. And one quote amongst the many, many stories we heard about individual Americans, from gentlemen from Wisconsin: I saved and planned for my pension to help me pay my bills in retirement. I had a bad back and knees, and do not see a job I could accomplish after working for the trucking industry for years. My wife worked at public school and has a small pension which will not cover our bills. How do I get a job in my mid-70s, given that my retirement might go away? I worked long hours in terrible weather to earn my pension and thought I planned for my retirement and trusted it. I really worry about how we will survive with no pension. We saved that man's retirement. You did, your department and our committee. It's sort of surprising to hear the majority even bring this up, given the subcommittee work on this, where I would describe it as political malpractice of their assertions that dead people get paid and taxpayers paid for this. Could you respond a little bit more? You didn't have time to respond when the chairperson was asking you. This was a real success story, and it was a success story for small business. We estimated that up to 3,000 businesses, small businesses, would have gone bankrupt because of their obligations had we not done, and had you not done in your department, done the work you did.
Thank you very much, Congressman. That was a big accomplishment in making sure that working people who had saved their entire careers for retirement were able to actually have a secure retirement. As you noted, it was also very important for the employers who would have been stuck without real options and would have either gone bankrupt or had to try to get loans without the ability to do so. And so this was a real example of Congress coming together, certainly in partnership with President Biden, who has long been a champion of making sure that every working person who saves for retirement actually gets that retirement into their hands. I mean, this is about basic security, the fact that some of that money came back from central states was actually, the process worked. None of the money went to somebody who should not have had it. And now there's been new safeguards put in place to make sure that that continues to be the case.
Did we find anywhere, any place, at any time, any evidence that dead people got money?
No, there's no evidence of that at all.
Do you have any idea where that came from?
That talking point, you mean? I mean, that did not happen. The money has been returned. There are safeguards in place, and we continue to implement a program that has had an incredibly impactful outcomes for working people and their families.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And some people don't like competent women, but I certainly appreciate your work.